on, Briston. Thank you so much again for doing this. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
dude, thank you for having me. I was so stoked about this.
Cool.
I've been a patron for a long time of the American Songwriter.
That's amazing. I love it. Very
Yeah,
cool. Very
man.
cool. So yeah, so this podcast is about your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
Sweet.
I did read that you are originally from Tennessee area. Are you
Mhm.
still there, born and raised there?
I was born in Georgia, a few hours from Tennessee, went to Knoxville at a really young age, and that's been kind of main station for the remainder of my life so far. I'm in Nashville now, though, full time.
Oh, okay. Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
And how'd you get into music originally?
Family was a really big thing. It was like the cliche scenario of like going down the list of like, well, I can't really do this other thing. Maybe I'll try this other thing. No, I don't want to be a doctor, and I cannot even play Division III basketball. So I might as well like pursue this thing that has been available to me my whole life. So yeah, music was always around. I knew I loved it, but it was like early middle school that I realized it was like my passion.
Okay. Was there a moment that happened that you were like, oh, this is what I want to do?
I think it was like a cumulative, like a whole, you could make a montage out of me like failing at all those other things and then like coming home, like getting just my ass beat at a football practice or something. And then like going home and being like, this is so much less painful. And I feel I have very strong feelings. And so I'm going to run with this. So yeah, like just getting home one day in high school probably and being like, this is my love. Like I'm having so much fun doing this.
Right on. Nice. What was the first instrument you picked up?
Guitar. My grandpa gave me. Yeah. I had a pretty straightforward, like very textbook rock and roll introduction. My grandpa gave me a guitar and taught me how to play.
Nice.
Louie. And like I was just telling my friend this story. I played it for like 3 hours straight or something, and then looked at this like blister on my thumb, and that was my first moment of being like, oh my god, like I have like earned this this pain. Like
sure.
this is my shit, man. Like I felt so good about it.
That's cool. That's really cool. So was your grandfather in bands or he was just a guitar player?
My grandfather was he played guitar. He was like the dude at the party who you like didn't mind that he showed up with a guitar. Like he just was like Human Songbook, knew like every John Prine and like Merle Haggard song, and like so it was always, he was a very like communal guy with music.
Okay. And what age were you when you learned guitar?
I was probably 8 or 9 when maybe even younger than that when he gave me that guitar. Yeah.
And right away, you aside from Louie, were you learning covers? Like what did you start trying to write songs? Okay.
UltimateGuitar.com was like my shit. That was like my homepage.
Guitar tab?
Computer. Yeah,
dude, I remember that website.
Oh
There'd
yeah.
be like 40 versions and you'd have to try to figure out which one was actually right.
None of them were 100% right. Like it was, like 1 or 2 chords just off, but it was some other 14-year-old kid posting it and being like, yeah, this is how you play the Crazy Train. So like, yeah, a lot of that.
Cool. Right on. And I did read that you tried out for American Idol. Tell me that story. And like, obviously you could sing. When did you realize that you're a singer?
Looking back on it, it's so funny to think that American Idol was the route I chose to go, because I didn't love, well, for like 100,000 reasons, but I didn't particularly love to sing. I think I just loved the idea of being a musician and being just an artist. And I didn't love to sing until maybe a year or 2 ago when I started writing songs that I enjoyed to sing. I liked writing songs. I liked performing for people. I liked telling the story of whatever it was I was feeling. And so I knew I had to sing in order to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think I realized going into the American Idol thing that I was like putting myself in a world of like the Celine Dion's and like, you know what I mean? Like just setting myself up to just be like the fragile and destroyed. It's just really funny. But yeah, it wasn't until recently that I learned how it feels, how to sing in a way that feels like appropriate for me, like in lieu of the songs in congruence with the songs that I'm writing. so yeah, I mean, I love singing now, but
Sure. But like
yeah,
going to that, was it just like, okay, this is the route I think I should be taking, so I'm gonna go
yeah. I mean,
audition for this?
basically, yeah. It was like I need to do something. It was very like Disney, like a Pixar movie. I was like, I need to have my moment, and like then they came through town or whatever, and I was like, well, life totally works in a way that like you have one shot to do it, and I need to seize that moment. And like it's just so funny looking back to think at 15, you think that like shit, like this one thing and this one group of people's opinion will determine my whole life.
Right.
And then like 2 years at that age also feels like a lifetime. So 2 years later, even at 17, 18, I was like, oh my Lord, that was so dumb for me to think that that was going to be it.
Like, you advanced kind of, I mean, you made it kind of far, right? At least,
dude, for somehow, I
mean,
know.
that's pretty incredible. Think about the millions and millions of
Thank you.
people that even show up there and they don't
Dude,
even
it was cool.
bat an
Yeah.
eye. And you made it to at least the Hollywood or something, or
dude, it was the top 30. So
wow, there you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I was out there for a little bit. I have no idea why the hell none of my friends were like, hey man, like just take a step back and like make sure you know what you're doing. Like the whole time it just flew by.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, but overall great experience. Like I really learned a lot from it and had a great time. Like
Sure.
it was very fun.
Do you feel like it helped you when you started pursuing music as, a profession?
Sure. It absolutely, in a really unconventional way, like I hate even talking shit about the process because it was like really good people that were like a part of the show, but like it really just made me realize what I didn't want, like that I didn't want to be in a world where music was being judged literally, and I didn't want it to be like, I didn't want to be pursuing music from a place of competitive like motivation. So like if anything, it made me realize like I should be doing this to better myself so that I can be a better person for others and like actively be helping other people, hopefully, in doing this. So much less about like portraying an image or like portraying a career, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Which in turn allowed me to like, I've been able to do this as a career now. So like I definitely learned a lot.
Okay. So from going home from, you make top 30 and then you get sent home. And once you get to you get back to the swing of things at life, are you writing music and trying to go out and perform like open mic nights? Like what was your next goal? Like, okay, you went and did that and it didn't work out, but.
Right. Well, I thought like the punk thing to do at the time was to like go home and like put all my energy into like my band. So like I had a band with all my buddies in high school, and we were like a little bluegrass folk band. And so like I got back from the American Idol stuff and I was like, you know what, guys, I've seen the glitter of Hollywood and TV. Like I've been through the shit, and now it's time to write some instrumental bluegrass music. So like we like immediately dove into like just trying to pave our own path and be our own people at that age, which is a really funny thing to do. But yeah, I immediately came back from the American Idol stuff, started like gigging our asses off in Knoxville, just playing anywhere we could all the time. And that was really what lit the flame of me being like in love with touring and in love with playing shows and being willing to do that groundwork. Those stages were when I realized that's what I was willing to do, to play music for the rest of my life.
And that band kind of like fizzled out. And is that when you went solo? Because I know you put your first record came out around a couple of years after the American Idol thing, right?
Yeah, like a year or two. I've made an EP. I did the whole like save up the money from working at the grocery store, and like I found a homie in Knoxville who's still a great friend, and like I just started doing all that stuff. But yeah, that was around the time. It was a very classic. I was going off to college. Like we all wanted to do different things. Like some of us had lacrosse practice. Like it was a very standard like 16-year-old kid situation.
Right.
But yeah, so it just like kind of fizzled out as we got older. But I definitely kept the energy going within myself to like start doing the solo thing. So yeah, man, I just started making records whenever I could. I started like saving up money, you know, when I could to make, just record whenever. And once I moved to Nashville for college, I was just in an environment where I could do that pretty easily all the time.
Oh,
and so I just kept the pedal to the floor there to like constantly be making shit with people and playing shows and touring, you know, over school breaks and stuff like that. And that was like a really good part of my life for sure.
Yeah. So you went to, after that band kind of fizzled or whatever, that's when you moved to go to school in Nashville?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You went to school for music?
I went to school for music for a year and a half and ended up dropping out to make my second EP during our finals week, because I knew that it was either I drop out and spend all of the money I had to make this record and disappoint my parents that way, or take the finals that I like drunkenly studied for like 30 minutes and disappoint them in that way and like lose all the scholarships and shit. So I chose to just bail on finals, make the record that week, and then like basically spent a period of time in Nashville with nothing going on, like dead broke. Been in Nashville for a year and a half with this record that I cared a lot about, but like didn't have anywhere to go with. Yeah, I mean,
and that was the big.
crazy.
Was that Big Shot?
That was actually, so the second, the one I'm talking about was the I guess third one total. It's called Carnival.
Oh, okay.
But Big Shot was one of the first things I recorded when I got to Nashville. Yeah.
Okay. But Carnival was that. So tell me about Carnival, because that was released eventually by Atlantic, correct?
Yeah. So that was.
So how did that whole relationship form? Like,
yeah, that was like pretty fairy tale style relationship. It felt very like rock docky, but we met. So I'd put out the Big Shot EP in when I'd first gotten to college after that band in high school broke up, and felt good. I felt like I was, you know, starting to like do my own thing. And then that's when I recorded the second EP, dropped out of school. But yeah, so that period of time right after I made that record, there was nothing going on. And I ended up actually going to rehab for a little bit because I was just drinking a lot and like had no idea what the hell to do, since I had just really jumped off this ledge of leaving school, making the record for no real fucking reason, you know? Like, so I came back from rehab and immediately was drawn back to playing shows and was so excited at the thought of getting back on the road and doing stuff. So I moved to Florida from rehab to live with my mom. I'd had the Carnival EP. I released I released some of the singles from rehab, which is a really funny thing to look back on. being in the van on the way to, like, I remember the day I was going to an AA meeting in the van with all these dudes and like getting the email that was like, Freakin Out on the Interstate has been uploaded to Spotify, and being like, well, like I can't lose much more.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, released that stuff from an AA meeting and then was like, well, that felt good for 30 minutes and I'm still in rehab and I still have nothing. So I moved back to my mom's in Florida, started playing shows again, and did that for a month or two and just was like getting really discouraged. And I ended up getting contacted by a label in Nashville that I was really stoked about, and to meet, they wanted to meet up in Nashville, but they wanted to see me play. So I scheduled this show in Nashville, and planned on driving up to play this show, and was so stoked to meet these people from this label. Got there, rough turnout, like, I mean, literally like 12 people, but I was like, it's cool, you know, this label person's coming, I'm super stoked. They ended up not showing up. And I'd driven 10 hours, had waited all these months, and so I finished the set, walk outside, have like just the true defeat moment of sitting there smoking a cigarette and just being like, what the hell is my life? And this cheery voice, like, I hear the door open and this guy goes, hey man, I like your cowboy boots. And I was like, thanks. Like,
Yeah, right.
great, that's awesome. So I have nothing, and this guy likes my cowboy boots.
I got
That's
some
awesome.
nice boots.
Yeah, I got some boots. And so I didn't think twice of that interaction. And then like 2 days later, my friend is like, hey man, do you mind if I give your number to this guy I know? He says he met you at the show you played the other night and he works for Atlantic. And I was like, I don't think I met anybody. And then I get this text like an hour later that is like, hey man, my name's Chris. I met you at that show. I complimented your boots. And I wanted to just say, hey. And in my mind, I was like, great. I like potentially fucked up the one good thing that came out of that, because this guy said, I like your boots. And I just said, thanks.
Cool. Yeah.
So luckily he was a very kind guy. And started just continuing a conversation there. He brought the head of the label we work with now out to a show in Nashville. We played in a living room. The dude stood on a couch in the back and watched us play and get electrocuted by the mics and all that stuff. Like, it was, this is all very like some cliche rock shit, but
That's cool though.
yeah, dude, we met him. We like went and talked in the kitchen of this house show, and he was like, if you want to do this, like we got a good feeling, let's give it a try. And then yeah, been working with them ever since, man.
That's amazing.
It's been an awesome, very beautiful, very chance, incredibly lucky scenario.
Sure. Well, so you signed to Atlantic, and obviously dream come true, and now you're getting to do what you were trying to do, you know, and as a middle school kid.
Yeah.
What was the first thing that they did for you? Like, were you able to go on tour and support some of their artists? Did you go back in the studio?
Totally. Yeah. First thing we did was they helped me release music. They helped me kind of get an idea of like how I wanted to present the EP, how I wanted to present just for the releases. And that was really cool. And then, yeah, immediately, man, we just kind of went down the checklist of like, okay, do you have a manager? Do you have a booking agent? So like we really, it was a moment of them being like, great, like show us what you got. And me being like, that will not take long because I have nothing to show you. So yeah, they just kind of like rock and roll boot camped me and got
That's
me
cool.
just like, yeah, man, they helped me get on the road. They helped me do a lot of stuff. Yeah, it was great.
Nice. And then you put out Indiana was the first like official release with them.
I
or
think
as far as like writing and recording a record.
That was the first time that they said, yeah, that they were like, just from scratch, like send us demos. We're going to work through what you've got and we'll set you up to go make an EP. So Indiana was the first record I made completely funded by them.
How was that? Was that different?
I loved that process, man. Looking back on it, there was less pressure than I probably should have been aware of. And I think that's why I enjoyed it so much.
That's interesting.
We had, yeah, it was a really crazy period of time. We had an A&R guy come and he was hanging in the studio with us for most of the recording, but was really supportive. And I was just stoked to like get to show people those songs. It was like, it hadn't yet clicked in my brain that it, like the success of the records meant people at a record label having a job, you know what I mean? And like, not just my success, like obviously like Coldplay's got my back over at Atlantic, but like, but like, yeah, it hadn't clicked in my brain yet that it mattered to other people's careers, like how my records sold and like how they were received. Mm-hmm. So that was a really ignorance is bliss sort of process of just making an awesome record and being like, wait, we have money to pay for like pizza tonight after we do this. Like, so yeah, that was like an awesome process.
That's really cool. Were you able to do like co-writes or anything? Did they set you up with anything like that? Or was it all just, I have all these songs from beforehand?
Yeah, that chapter was like, hey, I have like 20 demos.
Got it.
And just a couple of those ended up on that EP. And then a lot of those ended up on this record that we'll be putting out the top of next year.
Very cool. Yeah, I want to ask you about that. You've got a couple songs out so far. Mm-hmm. Let's hear about the new record and what you've released thus far.
Yeah, man. Well, so we've released 2 singles. One's called Deep Sea Diver, and that was one of the first co-writes I got to do for this record with this guy named Dan Wilson. And then
was that different writing with somebody else versus yourself?
Oh Lord, yeah.
I can imagine.
Insane. Yeah.
Was it hard to adapt to that or fairly easy?
I think it was just different. Yeah, I don't think it was too hard, and I think people have very heavily varying opinions of co-writing, but I enjoy it when I'm in the right mindset. It's
Mhm.
only when I start to think, when I put too much pressure on it, that it's not fun. But yeah, man, that was still a time that I was just like, it hadn't really clicked yet for me that it mattered like to other people if this was good. So I was just kind of bebopping around, and like, yeah, we had a lot of fun and wrote a song that I'm really stoked about. And then the other single is called Freeway. That was one of the first. That was a demo that I sent the record label when with the batch that was going to be on Indiana.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and so Steve, the president of the label, was like, let's hold off on that one. I think like I have some ideas for people who could produce this, or like let's let this one grow, which was a great call. Yeah, and I was super stoked.
Very cool. And like how did like COVID, how did that affect you as far as like were you on the road at that point? Were you recording a
Mm.
record? Or, like what happened?
So
Like I want to hear your
yeah,
story about what happened when that all hit.
dude, totally. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's got a story because it was insane
Yeah.
how quickly things changed. But we very, very luckily had finished recording about 3 weeks maybe before like city started going on lockdown. So like
Oh, wow.
we couldn't have cut it much closer. Maybe that may have been a month, but like very, very close. So we wrapped it up in LA and then came home, and we're starting the like mix note process and really just ramping up to have like a really busy 2020. And like
Hmm.
thought we were gonna like be on the road a ton. We'd had like all these awesome offers coming in and things we were super stoked about, these like 2 month long tours and like things we were really pumped about. And then
Hmm.
yeah, it's just like gates closed. And so I mean, with that was the initial shock of being like, what does anything, like, okay, who am I now? Like
Hmm.
I went from being this like crazy dude living in a camper thinking that like the world revolved around the fact that I was making a record, to being like, wait, I live with my parents and I am in debt, painfully deep in debt. Uh, and yeah, so it started the process of like kind of just replanting roots as a person,
Sure.
um, which was a really beautiful process for a few months. And then obviously the state of the world just increasingly got more and more shitty, and more shitty things happened. Um, and it made me shift from like, who am I, to like, how do I, what do I need to do? Uh, what does my impact as an artist need to be on like a global scale, and just like with the entire world in mind. Um, and so, yeah, man, I mean, now we're at a point where like my thought has changed so much about making music and writing, to where like a socially conscious voice is kind of threaded through everything that I've been doing.
Hmm.
Um, and I've really tried to just like grow into only being grateful that I get to do this, and taking nothing for granted in working hard so that other people can feel safe listening to this music and
Hmm.
following these songs.
Hmm. Do you feel like being stuck inside that you've been able to be creative? Like, have you been writing a lot? And like,
Mm.
do you feel as if those like stuff that you've written now should have made that record, or like, is it going to
Oof,
be weird? You know what I mean? Because now we're in
totally.
a world that's totally different than probably when you wrote the album originally.
Yeah, man. Holy hell. Yeah. I have definitely written some stuff that I'm like, dang, I wish I could be sharing this right now. Like
Hmm.
just from such of a place of like, hey, we're all in this exact same moment together.
Right.
But I think my perspective on having the record, because the record will be done for a year by the
Hmm.
time it's out. But I think that I have grown enough as a person to be able to present this and say, hey, here is shelter. Like, if you guys want to listen to this music and like feel, to be able to disconnect from the issues of the world right now, like this
Hmm.
can be a safe place. But like, I want that album to be listened to provide that comfort, and then for people to see me, you know, which feels weird to say, but for people to see me as an artist, as someone who is like, hey, this is where I was at. But right now, like I'm, you know, we're all in this shit together. So like, you can look into my brain by listening to this record, but then I'm still here as a person to like hear where you're at as a listener. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I mean that process has been crazy to think of. Like, it feels pretty weird to be releasing music right now that's about like me having a bad night at a party. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but I think everybody's kind of in that situation though, right? I mean, it's something that was obviously
absolutely
meaningful to you. It's a rad song. You want people to hear it, but
yeah,
it's unfortunate that you had to, you know, everything happened. You had to wait to put it out, but
yeah, for sure, man. I mean, it blows, but like it happened exactly, you know, I think that it things happen in recording and in writing those songs, that there are moments in the record that I think somehow work out nicely to provide some sort of relief, hopefully, for anyone who needs it during this time.
Yeah, I love it. Have you done any
Thanks,
like
dude.
live streaming things or anything of the sorts to like promote your record?
Yeah, I suck. those are hard.
I can
Live
imagine
streams
it
are
being weird.
Yeah, for sure. Do you guys do live stream shit? Like, have you guys?
No, we haven't. I've watched
Okay.
a handful of them, but I haven't
Okay.
done it personally.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can do it well. Like it's just so awkward. It really is tough. But I've done a couple things. I was doing these live streams when I first moved back in with my parents, where I would go down into their basement and like just start streaming at like 7 p.m. with like nothing going on, and then like try to write and record a demo or a song by the end of the night, and it always turned into being like an 8-hour long thing where like there would be like 20 people or something who ended up like sticking around the whole time, and we became like we would like lose our minds collectively throughout the night at the same time. And that was super fun. That was like a really just silly fun thing to do. But yeah, man, we've started doing some live stream like shows, and that's been a really odd process.
Have you done any of them from like a venue, like where you have to play to nobody, but it's like filmed in a venue type thing?
We have not. I've seen some people do that though.
Yeah, it's
I
interesting.
mean, it seems cool, but yeah, we haven't done that yet. It's all been bedrooms and basements.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, man.
Dude, thank you so much, man, for chatting with me today. I really appreciate your time. I do have one more question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh man. I always have to like check myself on this because I want to get so like, well, here's how it is. Like I want to get so like fake wise. I would say make sure that you love dearly what you're doing, to the point that when you share your music with someone, no matter how they receive it or no matter how much pressure you feel to explain it, that you don't feel like you have to explain to anyone why it matters to you. Because that's what great art is, in my mind, is art that you can share and not have to explain with words, but feel really deeply convicted about. So yeah, just love what you do.